Hey everybody, I'm the Drink Pro, and today we're reviewing Maker's Mark Rc6. Hey everyone, Drink Pro here, Kyle. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you guys will continue to like, subscribe, share videos with your friends, join me on the Patreon, join me on social media. I just got a TikTok, by the way, _ the Drink Pro, so check it out. Today, we're going to dig into another Maker's Mark product. We've kind of been doing the week of Maker's Mark this week, and we're going to close it off with a very sought-after pour, the Maker's Mark Rc6. Now, Maker's Mark Rc6 is one of the Maker's Mark wood finishing series, which is essentially just everything that isn't standard Maker's Mark. People are familiar with the Maker's Mark 46. That's a more standard release that's in that wood finishing series. Maker's 46 is essentially just standard Maker's Mark that is extra aged in a new barrel, and the reason it's called 46 is because that's the stave identifiers that are used by this independent stave company, which helped them develop the product. Now, for those of you who don't know, the independent stave company is one of the biggest makers of barrels, a cooperage, I believe is what they're called, in the world. They make a lot of the products that you end up seeing today on the shelves. The oak pieces that make up a wooden oak barrel in which whiskey is stored, those are what are called the staves. And typically, you know, you're going to have a specific kind of stave for a specific kind of product. Maker's Mark has had some fun with this, doing their 46 with a specialty stave and doing their private selections where they actually include staves in the barrel that are of several different sorts, and they give the buyer the option of how to extra age the standard Maker's Mark. It's kind of a fun process. So what makes Rc6 unique? Well, the independent stave company worked for almost 2 years with Maker's Mark to develop a new process in which to create this Rc6 whiskey. And what they've done is they've extra seasoned the wood that goes into these staves. Now, what does that mean? Typically, they sort of leave out the stave wood in the elements and let the, effects of nature change the qualities of the wood. And they'll do that between 3 and 6 months for most of their barrels. Well, for this extra aged Rc6, they've actually done that seasoning process for a whole 18 months. So there's a lot more effect on the wood left in the elements. The wood that they use is still virgin American oak, so it's not a particularly unique wood. They're not doing something really out of the ordinary there, but this seasoning process really has an effect on the flavor, which is what went into the Rc6 release. One other thing that's worth noting about the Rc6 is that there were only 255 barrels produced. That's not a lot of whiskey, so it's really exciting to be able to try this whiskey. Shout out Nate Cooper for the sample. I appreciate it, my man. Now, it appears that this whiskey is at 54.35%. That's what it looks like on the label that Nate has put together. So it's going to be higher proof than some of the other things I've tried, but pretty standard in the line of the Maker's Mark Private Selection proof levels. All right, let's go ahead and pour this out. Oh, wow. So immediately after pouring it, I just stuck my nose in there, and boy, it's beautiful. It is super sweet and rich. Now, Maker's Mark generally is very sweet on the nose for me, but this is sweet in a different way. It's a broader, richer sweetness. I'm getting a lot of vanilla on the nose. I'm getting almost a sharp vanilla, like a vanilla extract. I get maybe a little caramel, maybe a little maple syrup, but not a whole lot of those sweet aromatics. For me, the sweetness really is a malty sweetness. I'm getting more of a nutmeg or a clove on the baking spice component. Not much cinnamon here, which kind of surprises me because there's so much going on that would seem to indicate you're going to get cinnamon, but not really. I get a little bit of sweet caramel, a light nutmeg, a little clove. The butterscotch is actually becoming stronger and stronger the longer I keep nosing it. The butterscotch really is starting to show up. I'm also getting this walnut and maybe like a rose petal or a geranium, something like that. Oh, I knew that was coming. Oh, God. This is not a fruity whiskey, though. This is definitely like sweetness in the malty category, some sweet aromatics, some baking spice, and then this nuttiness. It's very much sweet and nutty, not necessarily in the way of like a Booker's. It's not that strong and sharp in its nuttiness. The predominant note for me, honestly, is the malty sweetness. And then I get these other background notes of baking spice, a little bit of maybe a floral note, and then a more pronounced nuttiness with the walnut, a bitter kind of nuttiness. Although the more I nose it, it's starting to become more like a sweet peanut. So there are some notes that are reminiscent of a Booker's, but it's much more subtle. All right, let's go ahead and give this a taste. Oh, I like that. Ooh. Oh. There's a lot to like in that palate. Oh, it's got a much longer finish than most Maker's Mark products. Right off the bat, it's very sweet on the palate. An immediate hit of this really intense, sugary sweetness. It really is like caramel candy or like a caramel chewy. And that sweetness lingers longer than it usually does. Usually I get whiskey, I get a sweetness and then immediately it goes away. This sweetness lingers. And then you start to get this like pepper on the tongue, this very gentle white pepper. You start to get this heat. Then in the mid palate, it's not overly sharp or overly strong. The heat is just the right amount. You get this sort of sweet wood flavor shows up. Wow. I almost get like I'm toasted marshmallow. Toasted marshmallow, caramel. I get a little bit of a grain sweetness in the mid palate. Yeah, and then the woodiness shows up. Then I get this sort of smoked oak. The bitter walnut is gone. That was just on the nose. If there's a nuttiness there, it's very subtle and minimal. Other than the black pepper, my first several tastes have just been super sweet candy and then woody oak. Very interesting. There's that candy again. I'm really trying to chew this one to get all those components really throughout my mouth. Yeah, there's a little bit of walnut there. It's starting to show up again. It's this bitter nuttiness. And I'll tell you what, I've had the RC6 before. I believe it was a neck pour with a couple of friends that came over. I think that might have been John Warner. Shout out John if it was. John, if it wasn't, you don't get that shout out. I rescind it. But I've had RC6 once before and did not like it. I was not impressed with it. I don't think this is a neck pour. And I gotta tell you, I'm pretty impressed with this. This is delicious. So definitely pick this up if you can find it. There's not a lot out there, only 255 barrels or something like that. That's great. That, you know, your odds are not good, but boy, it's just a fantastic whiskey. It's not particularly complex. Again, this is not a super complex whiskey. This is not taking you on a big journey, but if you like sweet whiskeys and you like woodiness, but you don't want over oaked, it's the perfect level of wood if you like to taste the wood. You know you're having a woody whiskey, but it's not going to feel like you're chewing on a barrel stave, especially some of the earlier George T. Staggs, some of the old, 23, 24 year Rhetorics. Some of those whiskeys really are just all oak. It's like chewing on wood. This is not that. There's an oakiness. It's definitely prominent. You're not going to miss it on the finish. But really the flavors are like super sweet caramel candy, maybe some marshmallow in there. Mid palate, you're going to get a little bit of pepper, a little bit of heat. And then the finish is just going to be nice and oaky. Nice and oaky. Toasted, maybe smoked oak. So it's a really solid pour, though. If you bought a bottle, you didn't like it, give it a chance to open up. Give it some time, because I did not like it the first time I tried it, but I certainly liked it this time. Again, thanks, Nate Cooper. I'm going to finish this up, maybe finish this bottle up. I only took half of it the first time, but we'll see how it goes. So in the meantime, you all keep drinking like professionals. Cheers.